G'day and welcome. I'm so glad you've taken the time to listen to this story. Whether you're here for the journey or to help you drift off to sleep, I truly appreciate it. This story will be released in parts, with about 4 chapters at a time. No matter what brings you here, whether it's to relax or to dive into the story, I'm chuffed to have you along. I hope you find it intriguing and relaxing enough to come back for more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. A test of strength. The joy of the town fair lingered in Amelia's heart as she woke the morning after the event, still basking in the warmth of Jayden's words and the sense of community she had felt. However, that sense of peace was quickly shattered as news of a bushfire started to spread through Longreach. It wasn't just any fire, it was moving rapidly, fanned by fierce winds and threatening parts of the town, as well as Jayden's family property on the outskirts. The carefree atmosphere that had defined the fair the previous night now felt like a distant memory. The urgency in the air was palpable. People who had been smiling and celebrating just hours earlier were now rushing around, gathering their families and preparing for the worst. Amelia's stomach churned as she processed the gravity of the situation. She knew that this was a test of not just the community's resilience, but of her own strength and ability to step up in a crisis. Jayden was already at his family's property, coordinating with the local fire crews and working tirelessly to protect the land. His phone calls to Amelia were brief, his voice strained with worry. "I'm doing everything I can, but we need to be ready in case it gets closer to town," he had said earlier, his words heavy with concern. Amelia's heart ached for him. She knew how much his family's property meant to him, and she could feel his anxiety even from a distance. She wanted to be there with him, supporting him, but there was something more she could do in Longreach, something that could help the whole town. Amelia wasted no time. She rallied the teachers, parents, and town volunteers, organizing a relief effort to provide food, water, and shelter for anyone affected by the fire. The local school gym was transformed into a makeshift emergency shelter, and Amelia worked with the town's leaders to set up a system for evacuations and aid distribution. As she directed the flow of donations and coordinated with emergency services, she couldn't help but feel the strength of Longreach's people. Everyone was ready to help, ready to put aside their own fears to support each other. It was a testament to the spirit of the town that she had come to love so deeply. The hours felt like days as Amelia balanced organizing the relief efforts with staying in contact with Jayden. His updates were sporadic, but each time he called, she could hear the exhaustion in his voice. Despite his efforts, the fire was inching closer to his family's property, and he refused to leave, unwilling to risk losing the land his family had worked so hard to build. Amelia could only imagine the physical and emotional toll it was taking on him. As the fire continued to threaten the town, Amelia began to see just how much this small, tight-knit community was capable of. The town's resilience and unity were on full display, strangers working side by side, neighbors helping each other, and everyone doing their part. But Amelia couldn't shake the fear that weighed on her heart. The fire was unpredictable, and there was still so much that could go wrong. When night fell, the air was thick with smoke, and the smell of burning eucalyptus trees lingered in the atmosphere. Amelia stood outside the shelter, her mind racing. She had done everything she could to help the town, but a part of her felt helpless, knowing that Jayden was out there facing the fire alone. She tried to keep her mind focused on the relief efforts, but the image of Jayden working in the smoke and heat kept her heart in knots. Around midnight, Amelia's phone buzzed with an incoming message from Jayden. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. "We're holding our ground, but it's still dangerous. I can't leave just yet. I'll keep you updated." She breathed a sigh of relief, but still couldn't shake the worry. She knew how strong and capable Jayden was, but she also knew how much he carried on his shoulders. The burden of responsibility for his family's land, the pressure to protect everything they had worked for, it was a weight she didn't think he would ever fully share with her. But tonight, it felt like she was carrying that weight too, along with him. As the fire continued to burn through the night, Amelia stayed at the shelter, offering what comfort she could to those who had come for safety. The town's sense of community had never felt more real to her. But amidst all the chaos, the one thought that anchored her was Jayden. She knew he was doing everything he could, and she had to trust that he would make it through this, just as the town would. By dawn, the fire had begun to subside. The winds had shifted and emergency crews were finally able to make headway. Jayden's family property had been spared barely, but it was clear the danger had not passed. There were still hotspots, areas that needed to be watched closely. But Jayden had made it through the worst, and that was a relief in itself. Amelia drove out to the property as soon as she could. The roads were still smudged with ash, and the air smelled of burnt timber. When she finally reached Jayden, she found him standing in front of the family house, his clothes coated in soot, his face streaked with exhaustion. His eyes softened when he saw her. "I didn't think I'd see you here," he said, his voice raw but warm. "You should be resting." Amelia smiled softly, stepping closer to him. "I couldn't rest until I knew you were okay." He nodded, his hand reaching for hers. "We're okay. It's been a rough night, but we've got the land, we've got each other. That's what matters." Amelia squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with pride. "You did everything you could, Jayden. I'm so proud of you." And in that moment, Amelia realized just how much she had grown. She had faced the challenges of the bushfire with determination and strength, just as Jayden had faced the flames with the same resolve. They had both done what was necessary to protect what mattered most, each other and the people they loved. As the sun rose over the smouldering land, Amelia and Jayden stood together in the quiet aftermath of the fire. The worst was behind them, but the scars of the event would remain. Still, they had emerged stronger. Their bond was tested, but it was undeniable, solidified not only by love, but by the unspoken promise that no matter what came next, they would face it side by side. With the fire behind them, they could finally take a deep breath, knowing they had passed the ultimate test together. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that whatever it held, they would continue to build their life in Longreach, stronger and more united than ever. Rebuilding and renewal. The days following the fire were a blur of activity, but as the smoke cleared and the land began to recover, the true strength of the community began to shine through. Longreach had always been a place where people came together in times of need, but now, after the fire, it felt as if the town had become one living, breathing entity, each person a part of a collective effort to restore what had been lost. Amelia and Jayden stood at the heart of it all, working side by side with their neighbors and friends to rebuild. For Amelia, it was a time of deep reflection on everything she had experienced since arriving in Longreach and on what it meant to truly belong somewhere. The fire had threatened to take away so much, but in its wake it had revealed something more enduring: the unwavering strength of the people who called this place home. It wasn't just about rebuilding the physical structures. The town's heart had been tested, and now it was time to rebuild that too. Amelia found herself immersed in every aspect of the recovery efforts, organizing volunteers, helping with logistics, and offering support to the families who had lost so much. She had always been someone who believed in action, and the work gave her a sense of fulfillment she hadn't even realized she was missing. Jayden, too, had found himself working harder than ever before. The fire had hit his family's property hard, but it hadn't broken him. The land was his responsibility, and he was determined to restore it to its former beauty. He was out in the fields early each morning, making sure the livestock was cared for and working alongside the community to rebuild the fences that had been scorched. As the days passed, it became clear to Amelia that this land, this life, was where Jayden's heart truly lay, and now it was where hers had found a home too. One evening, as the sun began to dip behind the hills, painting the sky with vibrant oranges and pinks, Amelia and Jayden sat together on the porch of Jayden's family home, taking a rare moment to breathe. The weight of the day's work still pressed on their shoulders, but for once there was a peace between them that had been missing in the chaos of the last few weeks. As the days passed, the town began to slowly take on a new shape, one that felt even more connected than before. The rebuilding efforts had brought people closer together, and Longreach had begun to feel more like a family than a town. Amelia felt a deeper connection with her students, her colleagues, and the families in the community. Each moment spent working alongside them, sharing stories and laughter in the midst of hardship, reaffirmed the choice she had made to stay. Longreach was not just where she lived, it was where she belonged. And with each passing day, her bond with Jayden grew stronger. Their late-night conversations about everything and nothing, their shared moments of silence as they worked side by side, all deepened their relationship in ways words couldn't describe. They had become a team, not just in the face of adversity, but in every part of their lives. Their connection was undeniable, built on trust, love, and mutual respect. One evening, as they sat together on the porch again, watching the stars twinkle above them, Jayden turned to Amelia, his voice softer than it had been all day. "You know," he began, "I've been thinking a lot about the future lately, about what comes next for us." Amelia raised an eyebrow, a small smile tugging at her lips. "What do you mean?" Jayden took a deep breath, his eyes searching the horizon before meeting hers. "I'm not just talking about rebuilding this property or what comes after the fire. I mean, us, our future together." The words hit Amelia like a rush of warmth and her heart fluttered. She had always known how much Jayden cared for her, but hearing him speak so openly about their future made everything feel real, made their dreams feel tangible. "I want to build something lasting with you, Amelia," Jayden continued. "I don't want to just survive this life. I want to live it, with you by my side. Whatever that looks like, whatever challenges come our way, I want to face them together." Amelia's eyes softened, her heart swelling with emotion. She had never imagined a life like this, one so rooted in love, support, and shared purpose. In Longreach, she had found more than a home. She had found her future. "I feel the same way," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "I never imagined that I could feel so connected to a place and to someone. But here, with you, this feels right." They sat in comfortable silence, the weight of their words settling between them, the stars overhead a quiet reminder of the vast future ahead. And in that moment, Amelia knew, with absolute certainty, that whatever came next, whatever challenges, triumphs, or obstacles, they would face it together. They had already built a foundation stronger than any fire, and the future was theirs to shape. As the night deepened, the air grew cooler, but Amelia felt an overwhelming warmth in her chest. She wasn't just rebuilding a life, she was creating something new, something full of promise. And with Jayden by her side, she was ready for whatever the future had in store. A proposal to remember. The sun was setting over the vast expanse of the family property, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. The fire had passed, leaving behind the scars of destruction, but also the seeds of renewal. Amelia and Jayden had spent countless hours here together, first fighting to protect it, and now working side by side to restore what had been lost. It had become a place of strength for them both, a symbol of resilience and unity. Jayden had planned this moment carefully. He wanted it to be more than just a proposal. It was a celebration of their journey, of the trials they had faced and the love they had found. As they walked along the familiar path they had travelled countless times, Jayden led Amelia to a quiet clearing at the edge of the property, where the land stretched out before them, bathed in the warm glow of the fading sun. Amelia glanced at Jayden, a curious look in her eyes. "What are we doing here?" she asked, her voice soft. Jayden smiled, a quiet determination in his expression. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you for a while now," he said, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "But I wanted it to be here, in this place, where everything we've been through together feels real." Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She could sense the gravity of the moment, the weight of his words hanging in the air between them. "What do you mean?" Jayden took her hand in his fingers gently brushing against hers. "Amelia," he began, pausing for a moment as he searched her eyes, "I've spent a lot of time thinking about us, about what we've built together. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and I want you to know that, no matter what comes next, I'll always be by your side." The sincerity in his words washed over her, and she felt a rush of emotion flood through her. This was the man she had built a life with, someone who saw her, understood her, and loved her for who she truly was. The memories of the past months flashed through her mind. The long days spent working side by side, the laughter, the quiet moments of connection, and the challenges they had faced together. Jayden's voice broke through her thoughts as he continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "Amelia, will you marry me? Will you make this life we've created together permanent? Will you marry me and be my partner for the rest of our days?" Amelia's breath caught in her throat as she processed his words. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she couldn't help the tears that welled in her eyes. She had never imagined a proposal like this, not grand or elaborate, but deeply personal and meaningful, set in the place that had come to represent everything they had fought for and built together. For a moment, everything around them seemed to fade away. The world, the town, the future. All that mattered was Jayden standing before her, holding her hand, offering her the promise of forever. The answer came to her with such clarity that it felt as if she had always known it, deep down. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Jayden's face broke into a radiant smile, and he pulled her into a tight embrace. The world seemed to hold its breath as they stood together in that quiet clearing, surrounded by the land they had both come to cherish so much. This was the beginning of something new, a new chapter in their lives that would be defined by love, growth, and the adventures that awaited them. As they pulled apart, Jayden took out a small, simple ring, a symbol of their bond, their commitment to each other. He gently placed it on her finger, the cool metal a stark contrast to the warmth between them. Amelia stared at it for a moment, feeling a deep sense of peace settle over her. This ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was a promise of a future full of love, challenges, and joy. They stood there for a while, taking in the beauty of the moment, the vast sky stretching above them. The world felt at once enormous and small, but in that moment, it was perfect. Amelia had found her place, her heart anchored in Longreach, and she was ready for whatever came next, together with Jayden. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a final golden glow over the land, they shared a quiet kiss, a seal on the promise they had just made. In the distance, the faint sound of the wind whispered through the trees, as if nature itself was congratulating them on the life they were about to build. A wedding in Longreach. Amelia stood in front of the mirror, the soft hum of anticipation in the air as the final touches were made to her hair and makeup. She could hardly believe this day had arrived, the day she and Jayden would pledge their love and commit to a future together. The years of growth, change, and uncertainty had brought them to this moment, and now, with the sun shining brightly outside, Longreach felt like it was celebrating with them. The town had come together in an extraordinary way to make this wedding happen. The church, the venue for their ceremony, had been lovingly decorated by the local women who had crafted intricate floral arrangements and hung delicate ribbons that swayed in the gentle breeze. The community hall where the reception was to be held had been transformed into a warm, welcoming space filled with twinkling fairy lights and a sense of togetherness. It wasn't just the decorations that reflected Longreach's collective spirit, it was the entire celebration. Amelia's students had volunteered to serve as ushers, and the local baker had prepared a stunning wedding cake. Even the townsfolk, who had become her second family, had stepped in to provide food and music, turning the event into a true reflection of their love and support. Amelia's parents had arrived a few days before the wedding, still adjusting to the idea of their daughter choosing a life so far from home, but their pride in her was undeniable. They watched as she transformed into the woman she had always been destined to become, a woman of strength, courage, and deep love. Her father, with tears in his eyes, had walked her down the aisle, both of them sharing a quiet moment before the ceremony began. Despite their initial concerns, they could now see the life Amelia had created in Longreach, and they were proud of the woman she had become and the man she had chosen to marry. Jayden stood at the altar, waiting for his bride with a look of pure admiration in his eyes. He had always been confident in his feelings for Amelia, but today, seeing her take these steps with him, surrounded by the people who loved them both, filled him with awe. His parents, too, were there, smiling proudly at the couple they had watched grow through the ups and downs of life. They had always known Jayden was special, but today they saw how he had found someone truly extraordinary in Amelia. Together, they made the perfect pair, and it warmed their hearts to see them standing together at the beginning of forever. As the ceremony began, the air was thick with emotion. The crowd that filled the church was a mixture of familiar faces, friends, neighbors, and colleagues who had witnessed Amelia's journey from the nervous, unsure teacher to the confident, compassionate woman she was today. She had become a part of the town, woven into its fabric, and now she was about to marry the man who had made that life so rich and meaningful. Amelia stepped onto the aisle, her heart racing as she caught sight of Jayden. His face broke into a smile, his eyes glistening with love, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. She felt her father's arm steady on her, his presence a comforting anchor as they moved forward together. As they reached the altar, Jayden took her hands in his, and the world around them faded away. It was just the two of them, surrounded by love and the promise of a future together. The vows they exchanged were heartfelt, spoken from the depths of their hearts. Jayden's words were simple, yet powerful, reflecting the strength of their bond and his unwavering commitment to Amelia. Amelia, from the moment we met, I knew I was home. You've shown me what true love is, and I promise to always stand by your side through every challenge and every triumph. I will love you endlessly, with all that I am. Amelia's voice trembled slightly as she spoke her vows. Jayden, you've taught me what it means to love with all of my heart. You've made me feel stronger than I ever thought possible, and together, we've built a life that is more beautiful than I could have imagined. I promise to love you, to support you, and to cherish every moment we have together. No matter what the future brings, I will stand by your side. As they exchanged rings, a symbol of their eternal love, the crowd couldn't help but feel the power of the moment. This was not just a wedding, it was a celebration of everything they had become and everything they would continue to be. Amelia and Jayden had found each other in the most unexpected of places, and now they were beginning their life together as husband and wife. The reception that followed was filled with laughter, music, and joy. The hall was alive with energy as friends and family gathered to celebrate. Amelia's parents, though still adjusting to the distance, were filled with pride as they saw the woman they had raised surrounded by a community that loved her. They could see that she was happy, truly happy, and that meant everything to them. Jayden's parents, too, watched with pride. They had seen their son grow into a man who was both strong and kind, and now they saw him marry the woman who had brought out the best in him. They knew that together they would face whatever life had to offer, and that this wedding was just the beginning of a long, fulfilling journey. Amelia and Jayden danced their first dance as husband and wife, lost in the music and in each other. The world around them seemed to disappear as they held each other close, their hearts beating in sync, a reflection of the life they had created and the future they would share. The evening was filled with love, laughter, and tears of joy. The toasts, the dancing, the heartfelt speeches from friends and family. Each moment was a reminder of how far they had come and how much they had built together. This wedding wasn't just a celebration of their love. It was a celebration of Longreach, of the town that had become their home, and of the community that had supported them every step of the way. As the night drew to a close and the last song played, Amelia and Jayden stood together, looking out over the crowd, overwhelmed with gratitude. They had found something truly special, not just in each other, but in the life they had created in Longreach. The future was uncertain, as it always is, but they knew one thing for sure. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next. And as they left the hall, hand in hand, the world seemed just right. They were not just beginning a new chapter. They were continuing the story they had already started, one filled with love, adventure, and the promise of forever. Author's note. While Amelia, Jayden, and their journey are, most likely, fictional, the heart of the story, the spirit of community, resilience, and love is very real. It's been a privilege to bring this tale to life, and knowing you've walked alongside these characters is truly an honor. Thank you so much for giving your time and attention to hear this story to its resolution. It means the world to me. If you enjoyed the journey, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. What parts resonated with you? Did anything stand out, make you laugh, or move you? If you have feedback on ways I can improve or ideas for future stories, I'd love to hear them. Your insights not only help me grow as a storyteller, but also inspire new adventures to explore. Longreach and its community have a way of bringing stories to life, don't they? If you ever find yourself traveling through Queensland, why not stop by? Cruise the majestic Thompson River, soak in the charm of this special place, and let its stories whisper to you, just as they did to me. And who knows, if you look closely, maybe you'll catch a glimpse of a confident young teacher enjoying a picnic with her family, or a grazier tipping his hat as he heads off for another day on the land. Until we meet again in another tale, I wish you relaxation, peacefulness, and moments of joy in your own journey.